Why do you think we're relying so heavily now on remakes, reboots, reimaginings, and not original screenplays?
Because it's cost effective. They put the computations into the system and they go, it's a recognized property, it's a recognized name, it's got a built-in fan base. So if you race or gender swap the lead character, you can lazily use it as your own vehicle for identity politics, by piggybacking on something which someone else dreamed up, someone else sweated over, that was built up over a generation with the fan base. And so it's so easy to just take that existing property because it's risk averse and has name recognition, and then just staple a bit of identity politics in it, shovel it out the door. Uh, then you go through the same boring, exhausting process where there's ructions online about how it's identity politics and lazy and frustrating. Then you get a member of the cast who, for some bizarre reason, is sitting in his car with his phone saying, "You people are racist. How do you do this to like this beloved member of my cast?" I have this weird conspiracy theory that on the lot of the studios, they have like a pre-prepared car chassis so it can look authentic. The guy just sits in there and pretends that he's like in real life, just doing it spontaneously. That's my thought.
Yeah, you got your backlash revenge video planned for
Yeah.
midnight, Tom. They come in at 9:15. Oh, really, man? I got to skip breakfast for that. Yeah, we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to post that
I
to
want you
Instagram.
to I want you to dress down. Okay, get into the chassis. We've got all the cameras prepared. Yeah.
Why did you brush your hair, Tom? We told you.
Yeah.
You got to be
Yeah,
one with the
the
people. Don't show your wealth.
yeah, the hair and makeup guy's role is to be in reverse and make you look more natural and just spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of these actors too are so detached from reality and are so out of like they just don't understand what real people are thinking. And they think that they're
Mhm.
doing this massive service for the world. And it really comes across in a way as quite narcissistic, which is something me
Mhm.
and Baggage Claim also touched on, was like this rise of narcissism in the actors to thinking that, it's all about them. And if someone doesn't watch
Mhm.
their movie, they must be a bigot or they must be this. And like, what do you think caused actors to stop almost being in tune and in sync with the public and being so detached from actual reality?
Well, I think the studio system being quite permissive, uh, and being wary of social media backlashes, which where social media is only made up by a small contingent or part of the population. And so I think that gave them kind of a permission structure where they could just say, I can express myself how I want. Uh, my stories matter. There's my stories in the wider sense of my community, but I think that's shrunk down or become analogous to my story matters, which is my personal story and my expression and understanding of the world. Uh, and I think as a consequence, you've also got, they don't know how to write male characters anymore. Um, I see what Rings of Power, and it was almost this strange absence of any sort of recognizable masculinity with masculine ironies, masculine ways of relating to people, masculine forms of agency, masculine ways of forming themselves into hierarchies, masculine ways of flirting or making a move. All of that was just so strangely absent. And you had this weird conflation of the genders, which I think is part of the point. It's because they see that as leveling or equalizing if they want to make the genders more interchangeable in some way. So that's a negative byproduct, and it's strange to watch. It's like
Yeah.
watching window mannequins coming to life. It's something that's weird.
Yeah, definitely. They feel so unrealistic and so lifeless, and they seem to make it as if like naturally masculine traits. We're not saying like, the toxically masculine traits of and men are trying to, abuse women and do this. It's like, no, not about that. It's just like naturally masculine traits because they are a man and so they're naturally masculine for the most part. They're making that seem bad. And then with women, they're also not really making like naturally feminine traits seem good
No.
either. It seems like they're doing the opposite of what they really wanted to achieve, right? Like they're not really empowering women because, like you've said in previous videos, like a lot of stuff that women naturally do, they're almost suppressing and saying that if you do those things that come so naturally to you as a woman, you're some sort of a second class citizen in a way.
Mhm. So everything just becomes this one amorphous mass where the men and the women become blandly interchangeable. Every place you go to in a fantasy realm is interchangeable with every other place. So there's no distinctions between anything. So in trying to make things unified or to bring in equity, all you've done is create this bland, soulless, weird nothingness, which I see on the screen more and more. So yeah, I don't know. So it's just endless fodder for making videos.
Yeah, that's a good, there's a positive from it.
I
Uh,
guess.
do you try and combat it with your books? Like when you think of characters and you're writing, like what's your process with that?
It's really interesting because my new novel, I tested it out on like community groups on Reddit or Facebook, and it's got two leads, two young men, and their storylines gradually converge towards the end. And one of the two co-leads is a young black man, a black social worker. And that alone, when I tested that out on Reddit, the vicious scorn, the absolute, this is impermissible territory where you cannot you cannot be writing from this person's perspective. This is cordoned off from you. And eventually, there was one thing on Reddit where I started like countering these suggestions as politely as I could and trying to, was also being incredulous. And eventually it just got taken down because the mods thought that it was being, too much of an incursion on the goodwill of the group. And the same thing on the Facebook groups I tried. And it's one of the things that angers me so viscerally and so deeply because when I'm writing fiction, it's the freedom. It's the perfect form of freedom where you can explore any world within reason. And so the fact that I'm being told by people who haven't seen a single word or read a single page of this book, have no idea of my prior publishing history, no idea of my liberal background, no idea of the people with whom I interact, and to say this is cordoned off from you, this is circumscribed, you cannot write these characters, it burns me up. It's so
Yeah.
frustrating.